Always keep your hands up, except when you shouldn't. One of the it's not a myth. It's what you would call a truism, right? It's true in the general sense, but there's so much nuance around it. The idea of always keeping your hands up in a fight really comes from the idea that, one, you're putting obstacles in the way between you and your opponent, thus covering to some degree your vulnerable spots. And two, having your hands up and on guard, they are ready for action as opposed to being passive. That's fair, and that's true. But keeping your hands up costs energy, and no one static position is capable of defending all angles. You're going to have to move your hands around a lot. The big thing is, we just don't look that people are headhunters, right? So we want to make sure that we are covering the head as best we can, as often as we can, when it's in question that it might be a target, which is pretty frequent. But if the body's a target, you want to be dropping your elbows, your forearms, and even your hands. If grappling becomes involved, you're going to have to drop your hands. You can't grapple exclusively with your hands up, with your hands guarding your face. It really depends on your scenario. It depends on your context. But more than anything, it depends on the moment in the fight versus what tactic, depending on what you're trying to do. There are a lot of reasons to drop your hands. If you can break distance, but the fight's not over, you might want to drop your hands and rest your shoulders. It costs energy to keep your hands up. It doesn't cost a lot of energy, and you can keep them up for a while. But the more protracted a fight goes, the more fatigued you're going to get. So the more you can relax and rest and keep that energy use low when you don't need it, that's great. The further you are away from your opponent, the less it matters where your hands are, right? If your opponent, I'm gonna even put a number on this. If your opponent is more than one step away from an attack, and by one step I mean one footwork movement plus, simultaneously with one attack. If they're more than that away, you can drop your hands. You have enough space and enough time. One of the big reasons people are talking about keeping your hands up is they're kind of thinking you're going to be in the pocket. We're talking more self-defense, in the corner, in the range where if I can hit you, you can probably hit me. Like if you are in the pocket, if you are not playing on the very edge of range or just outside of range, keeping your hands up makes more sense. And so you have to develop this kind of shifting guard. This is where one of the lessons from HEMA, specifically from a two-handed sword, but this applies to other weapons as well, comes in handy. And that's the idea of using multiple guards. Because after you finish a strike, you may find yourself not being able to pull back to neutral. You may find yourself in another position, which means that you may have to adopt a new guard. You may even have to adopt an entirely new stance. And so it is really important for you to be able to play from, orthodox and southpaw, relatively square, like peekaboo style, whatever. You definitely want to have high guards and low guards and long guards and cross guards, side body guards. You want to have all of these options. You're probably not going to have these back-weighted, back-tilted things like you use in a weapon system because we're just not doing those things, although you will see people adopt those postures to throw those big haymakers. So if you're going to do that, you should at least have that as a ready position and not just a load position. But you really don't need to have your hands up all the time. It's a good general rule of thumb in its context, but it's what we call a truism, right? It is broadly true in the general surface sense, but in the nuance, in the details, it's not always true. And so keeping your guard up is a good idea, except when it's not. And learning to distinguish between when it's a good idea and when it's not is really important. And that can take years, that's going to take experience and going up against a lot of different people under a lot of different rule sets and ideas. Look, if you are a single combat sport athlete, like a boxer, a collegiate wrestler, or something like that, then you're going to have to play within that one sport. But if you are a mixed athlete, and that's what we cater to here, if you're somebody that's looking at mixed martial arts, or somebody that's looking to dabble in maybe a little bit of grappling, a little bit of kickboxing, some self-defense, that kind of stuff, your guards are going to change. And that's another scenario, right? Being in a self-defense scenario, putting your dukes up oftentimes will just cancel out the idea of it being self-defense in the first place, because you are now adopting a fighting posture from a legal standpoint at the very least. And that can be difficult. And everybody knows the tactic of, oh no, right? So, you can't really play that either, because it's kind of a common trick, and you still may end up getting some culpability in court if you deal with that. There are times and places for different guards, for different hand positions, and all of that. And some of them are appropriate for certain contexts, and some of them are appropriate for other contexts. Some have some crossover for sure. But just because you should keep your hands up much of the time, I won't even say most, much of the time, doesn't mean you should keep them up all the time. But that being said, you should still probably keep your hands up, keep your chin down, and keep pressing forward. I'll talk to you guys later. Good journey. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Check us out on our other socials, and please head over to blacksunboxing.com to get a little more info, including how to contact us. Furthermore, if you are in the Phoenix area, please feel free to stop in, say hi, join in for a class, whatever. Also, if you ever see us cite sources, or just for additional content, please check out our Substack. That is where we put all of the sources we use in our videos, and is a major part of this. Plus, it serves as a membership platform for long distance learning and for people who would like to support us but aren't local. We would greatly appreciate it if you signed up. Even just the free membership helps us out a lot. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Good journey.